We try to avoid failures and mistakes. We try to avoid failures at every cost. There are lots of research that we call it desirable difficulties or deliberate mistakes. If we design mistakes, errors, difficulty on the path of learning, it actually accelerates learning. Very counterintuitive, isn't it? The moment we get the obstacles and get to do a difficult task, a complex task, the learning actually deepens far better than anything else. But remember that we are not talking about unplanned difficulty. We're talking about very structured, very deliberate, very desirable. For example, we were talking about the salesperson. What will be a desirable difficulty? I put him across a difficult customer, real customer. That will be desirable difficulty. If it passes that difficulty, his learning will be far better. But if I'm going to give him a tough exam in a course, that difficulty has nothing to do with his outputs. It's not going to help him. So deliberate difficulties mean which lines up with the outcomes, which happens in the normal course of work. Each difficulty must line up with an outcome. Then only it works. But teachers typically misuse it by giving tougher exam, a difficult question to the students. Maybe the objective is the exam because they gotta need to learn some subject. But in a professional setting, we need to make sure that we expose ourselves to those difficulties. In my own research, there was an example that these guys were doing some 12 weeks of training. The 12 weeks are basically were learning content and information. The people were taking about 1 year to become proficient in their job. Then what they did is they increased the length of training to 18 weeks, but they introduced lots of case studies, lots of deliberate problems, lots of errors, lots of mistakes into the training. Now, you will say that wasn't the right strategy. From 12 weeks, you're making the training as 18 weeks. Nobody will approve it. But in reality, what they found is the people were able to produce the desired outcome proficiently in 6 months as opposed to 1 year. So imagine just by introducing the quality difficulties into training can actually shorten people's learning toward that desired proficiency. If you expose yourself to one failure or a difficult task, your learning gets enhanced. But if you expose yourself to series of failures or series of difficulties, your time to become proficient is shortened hugely. Latest studies also shows that when somebody is exposed to multiple failures, series of failures in a shorter amount of time, in a compressed environment, they actually become proficient much faster. So failures are very important, but not only the failure, the exposure to failure at a very high speed. That's very, very important. These days, what they're doing is, in order to accelerate the learning of their pilots, they increase the speed of failures or alarms that comes in the simulation. So when they learn or to react to such a high speed of change in factors like air pressure, wing speed, and those kind of things, they actually perform far better in real situation where those variables are just going at a normal speed. So they expose pilots into much difficult situation, but also increase the number of failures in a given 1 hour. When you are coming across a new thing, go on, try different thing. Don't worry about failures. More failures you're going to get in a shorter time, faster you're going to attain the desired proficiency. Don't wait for perfection. Just expose yourself to difficult tasks as soon as you can. Putting you across to a difficult task actually may accelerate your learning far better than anything else.